Hello YouTube world, my name is Nicholas Montez and you're watching my YouTube channel, The Teenage Movie Critic, and welcome back to another YouTube channel for everybody. I'm so excited to have y'all back here again. And in today's video, we're going to be doing another end of the spring movie list, and today we're doing all 41 movies that I saw in the all 41 retro movies that I saw in the spring movie season of 2023. So let's go ahead and get started ranking all 41 of these movies. Now, this movie is embarrassingly bad. From the animation, to the bad characters, to the bad story, and even in the animation going back to that, it makes it 10 times worse. So for me, this is easily the worst film I saw in the spring movie season of retro films. Now, this was sort of a good movie. I mean, it has this story of, this is my pick for Good Friday, but it is not really an enjoyable film. It's pretty mid. I didn't really enjoy it all that much. Now, this was also a weird film that starred James Franco and Selena Gomez as they're out partying. It's during spring break, which is kind of ironic since I saw this is my pick for spring break when I started it. And it was fine. It had like some okay humor, but I was mostly disgusted by most of it. And honestly, it was just kind of an uncomfortable experience. Now, Athlete A, I actually did kind of like it. At first I was like, why are we talking about this girl getting raped when she's an athlete? Like, what? But I guess you could say it's more of a realistic story, so I liked it a little bit more because of that, but it's still not the best movie. Now, this movie was kind of another weird experience, as you have this girl who breaks up with her boyfriend because he's addicted with porn and all that stuff, and so she starts to get obsessed with porn and wants to learn how to be horny, I guess? I don't know. This was such a weird movie to watch. Now, this movie starred Sophia Carson, but this movie really wastes her and has this sort of plotline that I'm not really interested. It had some certain moments that I did like, but overall, it was just kind of bland, if I'm being honest. Now, this is another movie that I did sort of enjoy, but honestly, I was kind of bored throughout the entire movie, and I didn't really understand exactly what was going on. Now, this is another okay film. The only thing that kind of kept me going was hearing Craig T. Nelson in the film. I always heard Mr. Incredible, so that was kind of fun. Besides that, I was mostly bored throughout it. Now, I think that this movie actually has some pretty good performances from Will Ferrell and Rachel McAdams. They're pretty fun, but overall, most of the movie is kind of weird, and so that kind of what drops it down a little bit. Now, Desperados was honestly one of the most disappointing movies I've ever seen, as you basically have the girl that played Dahlia from Aladdin, as she gets hit in the face with a dolphin stick. That's all you need to know. Now, this is a movie that, I don't know if you can really call it a movie per se, but it basically is just a Little Mermaid as a show, plays the animated film, but only plays live action scenes when songs are coming. And that's pretty much all it does. There is like one good performance with Tiffany, Queen Latifah's performance as Ursula, and some of the new songs I'm not really the biggest fan of, but besides that, this movie is just kind of a waste of time. And I'd much rather you go watch the original animated film. Now, this is also a film that I wanted to watch for the new Fast X movie coming out, and it's fine. You know, it obviously is so different from all the other Fast and Furious films, where Dom only shows up at the end. It takes place in Japan. It focuses on this new high school student, and the only even the introduction of Han is not that great because you don't really get much of him in the movie. Though I do like the way these characters come back in Fast Furious 7 as well as F9. But other than that, this movie is boring most of the time. Now, this was a sort of fun political film, just like everybody having conversations about strong topics. It's just fun to watch, but at the same time, I just wasn't really all that interested in this film, and so overall, it was fine. Now, I think what's crazy is I was so excited for this movie because it has Tom Hanks. It's a war movie on the water, and so with a boat or a tank boat, and so I'm like, or a ship, I would say, and so it has all the stuff that could make for a pretty good movie. And this is probably one of the most disappointing movies I've seen this spring season, as Tom Hanks is kind of forgettable in the movie. The warship scenes are not that memorable, and overall the movie is just kind of forgettable to say the least. Now, this is also another disappointing film, as you have Charlize Theron, a great cast, and it's an action movie, and it's based off of a comic book series, and the action is okay, and the sort of premise of them coming back to life is just so weird that I'm like, does this movie not have stakes? And it just kind of bored me a little bit when it did all that. So easily another disappointing film. This is another pretty enjoyable film. You know, you have people fighting to get money on a plane. Enjoyable film. Now, the remake of Evil Dead, I actually haven't watched any of the other Evil Dead movies. This is the only one I've seen, and I can only say it was actually a pretty fun watch. It had some great kills. You felt the suspense. It felt very intense, and overall, I really enjoyed this one. Now, this is actually another enjoyable film. You know, it has this story that feels classic. It has our two leads have great chemistry with one another, and the story feels right for its time. Now, this is another enjoyable film that you had some pretty fun performances. It actually has a pretty good story, but it kind of felt mixed up in the way everything kind of played out. But overall, I actually really enjoyed this one. Now, this is another fun little action-adventure film where you got Dave Bautista, Drax the Destroyer, protecting a little girl, but also being a spy. I think it had some enjoyability to it. I think our two leads had great chemistry. The big problem here, I just wish it had a lot more exciting action, and that would have made the film 10 times better. But overall, I thought it was overall a fun movie. Now, Mission Impossible 2, I actually, as it's the last film I saw in the spring movie season, I actually really enjoyed this film. It had some cool action, it had a nice style of ripping off the mask to see who it really is. It had some great reveals, it had a great score, as it's kind of like this rocky type tone, rock band type tone, and overall it's a fun movie. Not my favorite, and also the chemistry with Ethan Hunt and that girl, pretty good, but overall the movie was solid. Now, I think that this movie kind of has some of the strengths of The Little Mermaid 2 and 1, but at the same time, it's like, it mixes in this story of Sebastian, of this mermaid girl wanting to get Sebastian's job, and so she does all these other things. They have this plot line of the king banning music from all of the ocean, and I guess you could say this is the origins of what made the Little Mermaid so great, because of the music and the great songs. So I guess you could say it's fun because of that. Besides that, I think that this movie has some fun. Just kind of weird in the way they told the story a little bit. I think what's kind of crazy is that I was expecting to love Greyhound. Not love, but I was expecting to at least like it. And then we get to Transformers, and that's a film I'm like, I can't believe I actually like this movie. Like, I like this movie more than Greyhound. But overall, the human characters are pretty boring. But once it gets to the Transformers, man, I mean, the voices in Optimus Prime's voice is fantastic. All of the action sequences are fantastic, and just all the different Transformer characters are fun, and they have great personalities, and it's just an overall fun movie. Plus, the ending scene is iconic. I think this movie has some great performances, it has a great cast, it has some great songs, and it's a nice movie to watch on Mother's Day. Now, this is another movie that I actually had a good bit of fun with. It has this plot line that mixes in a war movie with a horror movie. That kind of makes it work, where it's like you feel intense when people get hurt. You like the little bit of action. I wasn't the biggest fan of the twist at the end, but overall, I really thought it was a nice little film that came out. A nice sequel to the first Indiana Jones that I thought was okay. It was pretty good, you have some cool action. Indiana Jones, we get to see more of Indiana Jones on these types of adventures. The new girl in here is fun. The character of Short Round was great, played by Ke Huy Quan, as this movie leads him up to be a great superstar with Everything Everywhere All at Once. Besides that, I think that this movie is very good, but not quite as good as the first film. I thought this original movie was honestly just very, very good. It had great performances, it had a pretty good story, and you cared about the characters, though I actually liked the remake a little bit more. This movie honestly is the best Transformers movie. It has great action, it's a more personal story because it only has one Transformer as the main character. Haley Steinfeld is great, the soundtrack is fantastic, and the overall movie itself is a nice little story that is different from all the other Transformers movies. So I really enjoyed this one. Now, this is another solid, iconic, classic movie that I actually like a little bit more. I like a little bit better than others, as you have just Indiana Jones, where you get to see him on the adventures, get to see him a little bit at home, but then you get some cool action, a great score, and overall just a classic, iconic movie. Now, this movie was surprisingly really good. You got Adam Sandler and Jennifer Aniston in this movie, and honestly, it's just a fun film that the jokes are funny, the action is pretty good, and the mystery of it all, you actually do care about it, and overall, it's just a fun movie, to be honest. Now, Train to Busan was a film that I'm like, okay, Train to Busan sounds like an action movie. You realize it's a zombie apocalypse film, so people have to get on that train in order to not get eaten by the zombies. And it turns into, it's dubbed, but it honestly is an emotional story, as you have this wife and son and daughter relationship that I thought was just very emotional. Plus, you have some cool action. Great zombie apocalypse film. Fatal Affair had a great twist. It had a great story. I was intrigued the entire time, and also, the main girl is pretty hot. Now, this is another movie that I actually really enjoyed, as Spike Lee has great direction. I thought that all the characters you cared about. The fact that this movie stars Jonathan Majors is pretty crazy to me. And also just everything about this movie was overall really great, though it is a little bit long to go back and rewatch. A great film, but my least favorite of the Dawn of the Planet of the Apes trilogy. I thought it expanded the world of the first film in such a powerful way, where you care about the characters. You get to see apes riding on horses with machine guns, and it overall tells a pretty great story, but a little bit too simple for my taste, where I feel like it could have done something a little bit more epicer. Another great film and a nice conclusion to the trilogy. Just kind of wish it had more of that epicness that was set up throughout the second film and the first movie. But overall, a great conclusion to the trilogy. Now, Hacksaw Ridge is a movie that is, everything about it is carried by one person, and that's Andrew Garfield. Because the whole movie is centered around him, you're able to be connected with the whole story, whether it's the girlfriend, whether it's the soldiers that don't understand why he can't hold a gun. The whole movie is centered around him and the way he carries the movie. So this movie is easily my top 5, in my top 6. Now, this is another film that I'm like, this is the pinnacle of what James Gunn is able to do, where it's able to take all these movies that are, obviously it's made by too many different directors, but it takes all these great ideas, these hilarious, funny ideas, and puts it on the screen, and it is absolutely hilarious, whether it's the homeschooled boy or the will you shit on me scene with Chris Pratt. It is absolutely bananas. And I laugh at it I laughed at every single thing, and I'm like, this is crazy to me. So I finally saw Hamilton this month, and last month, 2 months ago, I thought it was a pretty great film. Of course, the music is fantastic, the performances are great, and honestly, it just has a lot of memorable moments, and the way that the story is told is very well done. Super, I thought, was another great superhero film that, like, it's what makes it so unique is that it's literally a superhero film directed by James Gunn, where it has all this style. The action, I don't care if it's that bad, but it's pretty good for what it was going for, and the soundtrack is great, the cast is great, and it's a different type of superhero story that's told by James Gunn that got him the job to make Guardians of the Galaxy. So that's great. a movie that has such a bonkers story, but humanizes it and is able to do so many things where you're able to understand everything that's going on, and the fact that this monkey built an entire army and started attacking the San Francisco bridge, that's pretty crazy. Alright, now we're at the end of this video, and you're probably thinking, why did I choose this animated film about bears that's like 1 hour and 9 minutes long? Here's the reason why. I watched a video when I saw this, before I saw this, and basically I saw a video about animation is not just a genre, it's a medium, and I heard like, that made me realize like, this movie is a great animated film. The animation's pretty simple, they don't do too many details with it, but what makes it such a great story is that it's basically a movie all about bears trying to be accepted into society when they're trying to run away, and it's emotional, and then when they have those moments of triumph and stuff, you feel it. And so honestly, I loved this movie. So that is my ranking of all 41 retro 2023 spring movie season movies. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. All my social media stuff is in the about section over there. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.